The award-winning Cinema Classics is produced by John DeSando and Johnny DiLoretto. Listen to the shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org. I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Johnny DiLoretto. This is Cinema Classics.
It sure is.
Not a lot of classics in the pipeline from this summer.
No, not from this summer. So let's look back a little bit at this year and before that and pick up on one of your favorite terms, which is flops.
That's one of my favorite terms.
Yes, it is, because you were capable of picking them out better than anybody I know.
Well, I mean, they're not hard to miss.
I know.
I mean, especially when they come at you with, $200, $300 million budgets and, these crazy marketing campaigns. You can't miss them. So you know when they flop. Also, can't you sometimes smell it?
Oh, yeah.
Like before... so the summer kicked off with this movie King Arthur.
Oh, I knew
right away.
Directed
by Guy Ritchie, who has a string of hits to his credit. Most recently the Sherlock Holmes movies with Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
And this looked to be like Guy Ritchie lending his kind of like crackerjack, slick chops to, this old legendary property, right? But when you saw even the trailer for it, weren't you thinking, no one wants this.
Well,
no one's asking for this.
Well, I was tipped off when I saw that Jude Law was playing in it, and I didn't quite think of him in one of these epic movies. It seems the finer actor, but that was just a small point.
Well,
to
I don't
tip
mind
off.
that. I just think sometimes there's this sense of why is Hollywood producing this?
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and anybody could write into us and say, how do you guys know? One of the ways you know is on the bottom line. If they're seriously below breaking even, they're flops.
Well, we know that, but I'm
Yeah.
talking about the sense that you get that a movie is going to flop. Again, for instance, King Arthur did indeed flop. No one saw it. Another one with Matt Damon, big star. Now, there's no arguing that he's one of the major stars in the world. The Great Wall.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's about. I had no interest in it. But again, it was another one that as soon as I saw the trailer for it, you're seeing these close-ups of the arrows flying through the air. You're like, what is he doing? Why is this happening?
Well, when you've got 1,000 Asians around him, and he's the only white guy in the whole... What is Matt Damon doing here?
What I'm most curious about is how that deal gets signed. How someone says, this is a good idea. Let's spend $200 million on Matt Damon in this. It seems ridiculous.
I don't know. I'd like to be in his position to turn down $20 million. I bet it's pretty tough to do.
Yeah, but he's a smart guy. He also, he has exercised a lot of quality control over his career over the years. So this seemed particularly an egregious mistake.
There were a couple of others that came out this year that were flops that I just liked. The Zookeeper's Wife and The Founder. Do you remember the Founder about McDonald's?
Yeah, I did. I saw it. It was one of those movies that didn't have a big theatrical rollout. It was also available on demand. And that's how I saw it. They just rented it before it was in theaters. I think around here anyway.
Yeah, so it probably didn't have a
Now,
chance.
was it is that a flop?
Yeah, it's financially a flop. I made sure by checking the finances.
Oh, you did
for
this.
I did.
Okay,
this.
you examined the
right.
actual
So that I wanted to back
budget
up.
to ticket selling ratio.
Once I heard that it was a flop, I figured it was a flop. I wanted to check that it was in fact a flop.
I just Googled it. Another flop, Pirates of the Caribbean 5.
Ugh, God, enough. That's
Again,
overkill.
No one wanted it. Don't they do any sort of market research? Don't they ask the question, are audiences hungry for this? Are they clamoring to see Johnny Depp in a do-rag and eyeliner again?
No, I certainly wasn't. One that I really like, Free Fire. Armie Hammer was in that, and Kevin Spacey.
Oh, that I missed.
Yeah,
that was from
a
the
great little heist film.
Yeah, the interesting indie director Ben Wheatley.
Oh,
so that had a little,
no, that was good.
Smaller budget.
Yeah.
Tried and true crime thriller.
Just nobody, I think, heard of it. People who saw it, such as I, would spread the word, but it wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Just too
small. So that's a little
film.
different. Yeah. It's a smaller film, right?
And maybe you might say that too about Ghost in the Shell.
No, I wouldn't say that about Ghost in the Shell. I'd say that had a, you know, there were high hopes for that
It
movie.
was, I know.
Scarlett
Oh,
Johansson,
yes.
proven box office draw,
Yeah.
associated with many huge global hits. And I thought that, you know, there was some interest in that movie.
Yeah.
For sure. So that's a little different than something like King Arthur or the Great Wall. For
Yeah,
me,
right.
Ghost in the Shell seemed like, oh yeah, let's see what that's going to be like.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure how some of these movies get lost in translation. Haha, get it?
I got
Scarlett Johansson.
I got it. It's
was in
very good.
Lost
That's
in
it's
in
very good.
translation.
But you know,
I think I'm lost in Johansson.
what happens is they
Come on, that was funny.
they
Now,
made me
you're
a-
gonna laugh at that.
I'm trying to
I'm
move
lost
on
in
here from
Johansson.
that. You know?
I'm not letting you until you acknowledge that was.
No, I
cute.
just have
Okay.
visions of
All right.
her and the shell,
All right.
and that's making me feel much better. Then, perhaps at the end, T2 train spotting and so on, just
Is
didn't.
that Terminator 2 train
It's
spotting?
just T2 train spotting.
Now that was, I think, success, wasn't it?
I think not. It's
No.
at least listed as a flop. But anyway,
Okay.
we could look at all-time flops. One of my favorites is John Carter.
No, John Carter of Mars. It was John Carter of Mars, which is based on an Edgar Rice Burroughs book. Again, I think there was some interest in that. Then they changed. They thought, you know, the marketing gurus over there thought, oh, John Carter of Mars. That sounds a little weird. So let's just call it John Carter.
I don't think they had a.
The whole point is that you say this normal name on Mars.
I just think the guy who was, and I've forgotten who it is who
Yeah,
started.
Taylor or something.
Oh,
Taylor
right.
Kitsch.
Oh my gosh, was bad.
Yeah.
I mean, that was not a good bet for those.
And that's, see, Hollywood sometimes. You remember that movie Flash Gordon in the 80s?
Yeah.
That, you know, it was so bright. Color, it's seared into my memory, but it was such a campy, fun, weird, super weird, that movie. You know, with Queen, the score of the movie was all done by Queen. Like, they don't do that stuff anymore. They don't get weird. Like, you know, everything has to look slick and polished.
Yeah, as you pointed
And then
out,
it's just dead on arrival.
you're hundreds of millions of dollars. You're not taking any chances.
Yeah. Hey, jump back in contemporary flopdom. From Luc Besson. Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets. Let's break down the title for a second. First of all, isn't valerian a root that puts you to sleep?
No, it's just a very bad movie, and Keith Hake wanted me to see this because he's into it. When I heard just such bad things about this movie.
And first, miscast that title. First of all, beginning with that word, and then the City of 1,000 Planets. Just think of that. That doesn't even make sense. Shouldn't it be a planet with 1,000 cities?
Yeah, I think so. All right, go way back. All right, can you go?
Okay.
Can
We're
you
gonna-
go
we're
way
doing
back?
more
Well,
historical
yeah.
stuff.
Like how about Heaven's Gate?
Yeah, boy, that changed everything. That changed the whole. You know, we were on that roll in the '70s with all these great movies.
Yeah.
And giving directors more creative freedom. And then Michael Cimino, hot off of the Deer Hunter, spent way too much money, made Heaven's Gate, it all flopped, and that system collapsed. By the way, not a bad movie.
No, and a beautifully photographed.
Yeah.
It lost, I believe, at that time, 40 million.
Yeah.
And either way, whether it's in today's dollars or what, that's a big loss for anybody. The Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
With Armie Hammer
Oh, my
again.
God.
What happened with this Johnny Depp?
Well, because they gotta turn everything into, like, they either make things that are over serious and brooding and dark, or they turn it into like a comedy. You know, and that's what they did. I loved the Lone Ranger as a kid.
Well, yeah, but this iteration,
Right, he's
was
an
a
idiot.
loss.
He's the idiot, and Tonto is. Why can't they just both be awesome?
all right, the one in my memory, not the worst financial bust, but it was a bust. But the one that kind of synthesized the idea of flop was Ishtar.
Yes. And I'm going to tell you that I stand by the first hour of that movie. I think that movie is funny. I love Dustin Hoffman and Warren Beatty being silly.
They're like
It's
song
just-
and dance guys, aren't they? Who end up in the. They're like song and dance guys, aren't they? Who end up in the Middle East or somewhere.
Yeah, they do. Right. And the premise of the movie, by the way, directed by Elaine May, who is a
A
genius.
smart lady.
That movie is not bad. I think what happened was it got bad press for going over budget, going over schedule. You know, that didn't happen as frequently as it does now. And I just think it got a bad rap, and people were ready to hate that movie when it came out. So that's the other thing. Audiences prime themselves, you know, for certain experiences. They get something in their mind about. For instance, back to this year, released pretty close together, the Stephen King adaptations of The Dark Tower
Oh, yeah.
and It.
Yeah.
Both of those movies were eagerly anticipated, right? Somehow, The Dark Tower just felt completely flat.
Yeah.
And It is still raking
And
it in.
I think that's an excellent example. Taking two from the same author and then seeing how one can be successful and one can't.
Right, they're both based on beloved, epic stories, right? One of them tanks, one of them does really well. I don't know if audiences were ready to just dismiss The Dark Tower and they were all excited for It. I don't know what happened there.
Well, I haven't.
They're both kind of duds to me.
Well, I liked It, and I did not see Dark Tower. There was such a bad press on that from people who had seen it. But you know something? I don't think our audience is enlightened one bit about flops from our discussion. We've been running. I don't think we gave them any.
Okay.
I
didn't realize I thought we were just going to enumerate them.
Yeah, we were. Well, we always hope that in Cinema Classics
You know,
there's some
listen,
insight that
I'm
does-
sure someone, that one listener, has learned about a flop. One flop that they'd never heard of.
Because you can be sure Cinema Classics is not a flop.
No, because we do it for free. It doesn't cost anything.